Okay, thank you very much for your introduction, Scott. Hi, everyone. Before we get started, I want to thank all of you for being here. I also want to remind you that we are only going to take up 30 minutes of your time. I'm sure it will be a worthwhile experience. We are here at our client VIP lounge at one of our sites. We're going to talk to you about a new and exciting way to service one of the most growing and dynamic customer segments in the US and how to reach it more effectively with a great solution, Press 2 for Spanish. The US Hispanic market is more than 50 million strong and spends over $1.7 trillion yearly. What better way to reach it than in their native language with the best Spanish possible? So let's get started. First, a little context about us. Our company, Outsourcing S.A, operates in Colombia's 4 largest cities. We are a BPO and contact center organization with over 27 years of experience in managing the acquisition, service, and maintenance of customers by focusing on the well-being of our clients and employees. We serve over 14 countries in LATAM and some of Colombia's largest companies with over 6,000 CSRs. Our services allow companies like yours to control cost and access emerging technologies without the need for new investments. Our main goal is to provide an excellent service to our clients and a pleasant experience to the end user, which helps strengthen customers' loyalty and new sources of income. Press 2 for Spanish is our new solution to access the Hispanic market in the US. It was launched last October at the Insight Group conference, now Reuters events, in New York City and created a lot of interest. Why reach Hispanics in their native language? Why do it from Colombia? To elaborate on these answers, I invited a true expert on the matter and a good friend. We've been working together for over 15 years. He's an authority of contact center technology and trends. Please welcome Peter Ryan.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be here, Ricardo, and I'm delighted to be here speaking in regards to what's happening to the Colombian contact center market and really the value that Colombia adds from a Press 2 for Spanish standpoint. I am very, very excited to be presenting to you today a brief presentation, a brief series of slides that I think will probably give some context to what we're going to be discussing. And without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and we'll hope that technology plays in our favor. It looks like it has. Now I'm going to put this into presentation mode and I'm assuming that this looks the way it should on everybody's screen. Effectively, I want to talk to you a little bit today about what are some of the key trends that are driving customer experience investment from the USA into Colombia. Now, I understand we've got a limited amount of time, as Ricardo mentioned, so I'm not going to dwell too much. I'm not going to be a bullet point reader on this. I want to highlight what I think are really the most important takeaways in terms of what you need to be thinking about with regards to Colombia as it stands to service consumers in the United States, especially from the Hispanic community. So effectively, we'll go through what some of the key reasons are over the course of the discussion today, and we'll start with a few introductory remarks. Obviously, there is a huge emphasis on quality bilingual or Spanish language services in the United States. There's been a lot of investment across Latin America over the course of the past 2 decades in this regard, but depending on the location, the results have really varied from, I would say, very, very good, all the way through to perhaps mediocre and not necessarily the right standard of quality. Colombia in this context is really, I think, one of the most sought after locations right now for servicing US consumers, especially from the Hispanic community. The enterprises really appreciate the value that it brings in terms of being a nearshore location of choice, and the Spanish language quality that you're able to recoup from Colombia is, I would say, perhaps the highest quality in the entire LATAM region. So as we talk about Colombia for servicing the United States, a few things to consider when we size up the US Hispanic opportunity. 60 million people in the United States count Spanish as their mother tongue. Within that, 5 million live in Los Angeles. Now that's an incredible number when you think about it. Effectively, that's the population of Denmark speaking Spanish in one city. It's huge, and it's only getting bigger. It's the fastest growing demographic in the United States right now, but also most importantly, one of the youngest demographics. And importantly, I think from an enterprise and a commercial standpoint, it's a demographic in which household buying power, household income is increasing. Every census that comes out, they're showing a net increase in real dollar terms. So it's important to be able to service the US Hispanic community in a quality fashion. Now, why Colombia for servicing the US? These are just a few points I'm going to go over. I'm not going to go over these in bullet point format right now, but I am going to touch on each one of these individually. And let's kick this off by talking a little bit about language skills. Now, I've been studying Spanish as a third language for the past 7 or 8 years. And one thing I've really come to appreciate is the fact that Colombian Spanish is probably the easiest to understand in terms of spoken Spanish, no matter where you go in Latin America. It's very, very important from the standpoint of being able to understand what an individual is saying. And from the standpoint of a customer experience perspective, when you're on the telephone, you want to make sure that the consumer is going to have 100% fluency in terms of what's being spoken to them. Now, I think this is important from the standpoint of Colombia when you consider that in the United States, you've got many, many different individuals from the Hispanic community with varied backgrounds, whether it's Mexican, Dominican, Cuban, people even from Spain. Everybody's going to be able to understand an agent that is based in Colombia because the accent is so neutral. And what about scalability? You know, I've listed Colombia here relative to a number of other different markets in the region. And what we can see is that while there's certainly some great work going on in countries within Central America, Colombia really is the only one that's got the true scalability when we make this comparison. When we go and we take a look at Colombia's population of 50 million, which is roughly the equivalent of Poland or South Africa, this bodes very well in terms of making sure that there's not going to be an excessive amount of shall we say, issues around scalability that perhaps you might find in a smaller market where saturation can hit quite quickly. And then there is, of course, the cost issue. And we all know that one of the big drivers in terms of looking at a different customer experience location outside of the confines of the domestic United States will be the price point. Well, in terms of what a price per agent per hour would sit in the United States, we can see it's well in excess of $30. In Colombia, for a bilingual agent, that's roughly $15. So $15 in terms of the price point that you would pay in Colombia versus well over $30 is significant cost savings and significant value that can be driven from Colombia. Equally too, we have to take into account the value for money around the exchange rate, which has always been very favorable when dealing with the United States. When American companies deal with Colombia, there's always, by my experience, been a very favorable level in terms of the exchange rate that they can count on. And one thing that Ricardo was mentioning to me was that if you're looking for pure Spanish, you can take that bilingual rate, which we saw was about $15 per agent per hour. That goes down to $6 per hour when you're dealing from Colombia. That's a great, great value that you're able to recoup in this context for looking for a Spanish-only agent. We see that customer experience is a huge industry in Colombia. When we take a look at the growth from 2010 to 2020, I think that this really tells the tale. The number of organizations that have set up shop to handle front office interactions or to handle customer experience management from Colombia, servicing offshore markets, primarily the USA, has grown tremendously. And we can see it's effectively doubled over the course of a decade. Certainly in the time I've been visiting Colombia and witnessing what's been going on, it's really, I think, shown the tail of the tape in the right direction in terms of the growth, which is based on quality, energy, and enthusiasm. And I think Ricardo made a really important point when he was talking about multiple cities in which Outsourcing S.A. is delivering. One of the elements I think is important in terms of Colombia is the fact that you don't have to be centered in one specific city for the BPO space. Rather, there's multiple locations in which you can do this work. This diversity means you're effectively spreading out your risk. It means that you're not going to be concentrating resources in one spot, which leads to saturation, as we've seen in many countries, especially in Central America. And it gives investors a good choice in terms of where they want to go. If they're working with an outsourcing partner, lots of different choices that they can pick from in terms of some of the most dynamic cities, not just in Latin America, but even in the world. And I've had the privilege of visiting many just wonderful, wonderful spots. I think accessibility is important. We all understand that as contact center professionals or customer experience professionals, very few of us are going to be planning on very long trips, very long voyages from North America into far off reaches of Asia or Africa. Rather, I think that what we're looking at now is probably a scenario in which the nearshore is going to be important, but getting to and from countries in the nearshore is so important in terms of a seamless fashion. Colombia has become a lot more easy to get to and from, whether it's Bogota's state-of-the-art international airport or the growing number of cities in Colombia, secondary cities that are taking in flights directly from the United States. So some great accessibility options in and out of Colombia's major centers. And favorability. Every year, Ryan Strategic Advisory does a survey of enterprise contact center decision makers, and we ask them, what are their penchants in terms of locations that they would like to work? Where are they favorable towards? Now, when we break out the US responses, approximately 120 individuals who responded from the United States, we can see Colombia comes in the top 10. In fact, it was number 6, just behind Mexico. Certainly, I think a great alternative is coming to the forefront. Colombia is becoming much more of a favored location. In fact, a preferred location, I would argue, in the context of US contact center buying. And stability. I mean, obviously, it's a democratic country that's had seamless transfers of power. That's very important, and certainly not something that many countries in Latin America, at least right now, can speak to, with different parties that I think have all taken a very pro-business agenda. And equally, too, it's got one of the most active contact center and outsourcing industry associations that's been successful in lobbying the government for the best possible regulation for contact center and customer experience management, which is, I think, testament in terms of how the country's CX industry has grown over the course of the past 10 years. So just to wrap up, there's no question that Colombia is one of the best locations or top-ranked locations from the standpoint of American enterprise contact center buyers due to the diversity of the delivery footprint within the country, because of the stability that the country's been able to impart to the potential investors and the existing investors, the overall level of scalability, the fact that it's an affordable, value-driven location, the quality of Spanish is just superb on the ground, and the fact that there's a very established footprint amongst the outsourcing community right now, whether it's global players or whether it's local upstarts or established local players, much like Outsourcing S.A. There's definitely, I think, a great deal of interest right now within the US buying community to work in Colombia. But I would just stress that the key right now is to try and find the right partner, that's going to have the experience delivering from Colombia into the US and going to have the right experience in terms of delivering in Spanish language, because that's so key for the vital US Hispanic community as it increases its size and its importance as a buying community in the USA. So thanks very much for your time. I very much enjoyed this and happy to answer any questions at the end of our discussion today. I'll pass it back to you, Ricardo.
Thank you, Peter. Great ambassadors of Colombia, Peter Ryan.
Thank you.
Scott, do we have any questions from the audience or?
Sorry, I was just on mute there. So if the audience have any questions based on that, I know I can see Mark's put one in the chat here. How has Outsourcing S.A. or Press2 for Spanish effectively bridged or enabled digital and automated services with human Spanish-speaking agents?
Outsourcing 4 years ago created a center of excellence. It's a business unit that we call it, we have our own brand, and it's called Deep Dig. And it's a unit business in which we have RPA, we have artificial intelligence, and we automate processes for our current clients. And from 4 years to now, we have been able to automate lots of processes, and we have an equilibrium. We have a balance between human agents and technology. And thank goodness, all the demand for our business has been growing a lot. So we have not laid off any people, for instance, because people talk about this transition from humans to technology. That in our company, the balance between technology and people is very important. But we've been able to automate lots of processes, and so far we have done very good with our clients.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Mark. I'd like to open it up to everyone else that's attending, and I see Lauren's asked a question in the chat as well. Please do just speak your questions and get that sort of conversation going. If you do want to continue using the chat, I'm more than happy to relay those. So, Lauren, would you like to bring your question to the table?
Sure. I don't know if my audio is on or not. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Absolutely, thanks. Yeah, there are a lot of Colombia, as Peter said, really has become a tier 1 destination for providing customer experience. What is the unique value proposition of Outsourcing S.A. in your Press2 for Spanish? And so let's suppose a provider, North American provider that needs customer service decides, yes, Colombia is right for us. Why Outsourcing S.A.?
Okay. We work more closely with the client since we are more a BPO boutique, if you wish. We're not a mega call center. We don't want to be like excuse me with this, we don't want to be the Walmart of BPOs. So we provide customer service to a very selected group of global clients. And we truly think global, we think global and act very local because we know exactly our people needs. We interact among Colombians and serve internationally. We know the local needs. It's idiosyncrasy. Idiosyncrasy. It's ideology. It's culture. And nowadays, that is a big differentiator. That affects positively the American customer journey.
And I know Mark's put a similar question in the chat there regarding the CX delivery.
If I may add, our attrition rate, for instance, is only 1 digit. And we have a metric that we call it a boomerang. The boomerang metric is 15%. And that means that the quitters to Press2 for Spanish return to work with us after jumping out to other contact center providers. I think the differentiator, I would like to use this analogy. When you go abroad, most of the times it's better to go to a local restaurant than going to a global chain food. So when you go abroad, you want the local taste, serving the American way. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Mark had asked a similar question there regarding the tier 2 or 3 cities in Colombia, and what do they offer for CX delivery?
Is he asking about the cities in Colombia?
So what value proposition does Colombian tier 2 or 3 cities and towns offer for CX delivery?
Yeah, the value proposition, having four, we currently have 4 different cities in Colombia, and those are the main cities in the country. The good thing about having different cities is that based on employment, we go to different cities. And normally in intermediate cities, we have people that are very enthusiastic with providing service, this country, the service culture in this country is huge. So when you go to different cities, you are going to have a full labor pool, much broader labor pool than the big cities. So that's a good value proposition. And again, the attrition rate tends to go down in these intermediate cities.
Sure. And if you don't mind, Scott, I'd like to take a stab at that one as well. One of the things I've had the privilege of in my career as an advisor and an analyst is to be able to travel around Colombia and to be able to see what is not only happening in Bogota, and what's happening in Bogota from a CX standpoint is outstanding, but what's going on in some of the secondary cities, and I've been thoroughly impressed. One of the things that I think that is an important advantage that Colombia brings to the table is the fact that you can house contact centers across multiple urban locations. Now, I alluded to this in my presentation. We've seen how this movie plays out in a lot of different spots where the CX industry is based in one single city. Well, very quickly, that city becomes overheated. Very quickly, it becomes almost an auction in terms of being able to compete for quality labor, and it eventually becomes too expensive, and nobody really wants to work there anymore. One of the beautiful things about Colombia, and one of the things I think has been important in terms of it growing the industry sustainably, is the fact that you're able to spread the industry out across multiple locations where you're able to find quality people. We're able to find, I think, civic administrations and state administrations that have been very proactive and very encouraging of the industry and willing to work with the industry to formulate the right environment. And this is why one of the reasons I think that when we go back to the presentation I gave, we look at that graphic and we see that the industry effectively doubled over 10 years. With a good reason, because of the fact that there's scalability, but the scalability is in a series of different spots where you get a proactive and positive response from the local administrations that are working with the industry, helping it grow.
So we've got time for sort of one more question there, and I know this is one that we had spoke about previously, Ricardo, but the difference between sort of the best local outsourcer in Spanish and a global one, where do you see that difference lying?
Yeah, no, as I mentioned earlier, we work very closely with the client, and a global contact center provider has thousands and thousands and thousands of seats here in Colombia, and also many clients. So we work with a very selected group, and that's what I mentioned. We know the local needs. We know what exactly our people need, and I have to mention, during this pandemic, for instance, the global contact centers did not behave good with the employees because they do not know its ideology, its idiosyncrasy. So that's a big difference. When you talk when you work with people, you need to have what I can say, like the features of the service and in place. So it's something that it's Colombians working with Colombians and servicing internationally. So that is the difference between a very good local outsourcer and a big global player in the industry.
For sure, yeah. So I know I said at the start that half an hour would go very quickly, and I know it has. We're already at the end here. So I just want to say a massive thank you to Ricardo from Press2 for Spanish, and also to Peter Ryan for presenting today, and really making it an engaging and really interesting topic for a workshop. I'd really like to thank everyone who registered to attend and has turned up and engaged with the content. I hope you've really found this useful, and I hope to see you back at one of our future workshops in this Future of Customer Service series.
Scott, if I may add something.
Yeah, go ahead, Ricardo.
Regarding your question, and this is Press2 for Spanish is well recognized for its meticulous recruiting and hiring process, and Outsourcing S.A. makes sure all applicants meet the highest standards in idiomatic strengths, such as semantics, phonetics, grammar, reading, diction, and writing. There is no other company like ours in the market who specialize in Spanish. And our clients are proud of the customer experience, their end users experience during their customer journeys. Our clients get first contact resolution and customer satisfaction. Our Spanish app site guarantees efficiency and very effective interactions with our clients. With our clients, Spanish-speaking customers, at a very, very competitive price. You've got to see it for yourself. I'm pretty sure your customers want quality and convincing answers, and this is possible when your contacts are taken care of by our CSRs, complying with all data and cybersecurity standards with the most demanding procedures in Spanish. Another advantage of Press2 for Spanish is Colombia's commercial and marketing culture, which allows our telesales agents to convert a higher percentage of sales. They communicate with ease, and since they master the Spanish language, their job is a lot easier. So remember, choose Press2 for Spanish for quality, efficiency, and eliminate those long and expensive calls taken by non-idiomatic skilled agents. So welcome to your best choice in Spanish-speaking BPOs. Press2 for Spanish by Outsourcing S.A.
Thanks for those closing remarks there, Ricardo. Like Ricardo just said, echo there, thank you everyone so much for coming today and tuning in. We will be reaching out to you after the event with a little bit more of a roundup of the workshop, and also I know Ricardo and Press2 for Spanish would like to give everyone sort of a memento of the workshop, so they will be sending out to you a playlist on Spotify. That's something to look out for and something unique and really great that they've included there. So yeah, thank you everyone for coming. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and yeah, we hope to see you at the next one. Thank you from ourselves at Reuters Events and also Press2 for Spanish.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.